I've learned that trying to break in 3 shoes at once is not always a great experience and can be a little bit painful. Right now, I have the opportunity to be breaking in these 3 shoes. I've got the Skwama, the Mandala, and the Solution Comp, all from La Sportiva. And it's been really interesting just so far. We've had one climbing session that I've been able to use them. And it's interesting to see how their performance differs a bit.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the interesting thing of the style that we did. You did a pretty good job of like giving them equal time.
Yeah.
Although definitely the Skwama got kind of the majority of the time towards the end.
There's a reason for it, though.
Yeah. But you're very like consistent about giving a certain amount of time per shoe and kind of doing them on the same sort of problem to kind of feel how they were kind of just the performance was different. I know you used, I think, the Mandala and the Solution Comp back to back, and you kind of had some thoughts about them.
Yeah, first I used the Mandala. It was kind of a small holds on a little bit of an overhang. And I think it was my first time trying the problem as well, so that kind of changed it a bit. But I found that like my feet were kind of slipping off the small holds a little bit. And it is also my first time using a no-edge shoe. So I think there's probably a bit of a learning curve that comes with that.
For sure.
And then when I put the Solution Comps on for the next go around on it, I did notice that I kind of with that beak was able to stay on them a bit more. I wasn't able to smear quite as nicely as with the Mandalas, but having that beak was quite helpful. The little holds were a bit in cut, so I think that was definitely helpful. And I just kind of knew the beta a little bit more.
Yeah. And like maybe go over kind of like just what you've noticed so far with like no edge and like traditional. Like how have you noticed like movement as a comfort? Like
I mean, out of all 3 of these shoes, comfort level, I would say probably so far at least, the Skwama's been the most comfortable, which is part of the reason why I was using them more at the end because my feet were dying. And then the Mandalas, I would say, would be the next most comfortable. And then last would be the Solution Comp. Comfortable being a relative term, I would say.
Yeah.
But using them, they do have the leather in the heel, which is really nice. And right now I do have like a bursa on the back of one of my heels. And I think they were actually the most comfortable, which is ironic given kind of just looking at them top down. The Mandala looks like the heel is much smaller and it feels really secure, but it just doesn't hit the same spot that something like the Solution Comps do on there.
Right.
And then with the Solution Comps, I did definitely notice, like, obviously it's what they're designed for. It's what they're known for is being on overhang. They were lovely. It was my first time using a shoe that aggressive in the toe. And it was kind of crazy being able to just like stick. I think that's the only way I can describe it. Is just like sticking to the smaller holds and just I could pull.
Yeah.
Which is something I wasn't used to and was very appreciative of.
Yeah, I know I was kind of like telling you about it. I'm like, you're going to love these on overhang. You're like not generally like an overhang or like a cave kind of climber. But I was like, trust me, the Solution Comps are going to be super nice just because like of how they are. And maybe you can like show, like pick the shoe up and kind of show how like they're like downturned and they got like that hook on the end of the toe. And
the firm hook.
And that's the thing is like, the toe box is not soft. Like the Skwama has a very soft toe box, and I think the Mandala kind of has a soft toe box as well. Softer, but I know the Skwama has.
It's still down-turned for sure, but it doesn't have that same beat.
Like the Solutions are an aggressive downturn shoe, and when you're in those cave situations, it's so nice because you just get that power to your toe, and you get the sticky rubber, and it's like so nice.
Yeah. And I actually even did use the Skwamas on a slab, and they were actually pretty comfortable. I mean, I haven't really used a shoe that's like meant for a slab, like a firm like edge shoe with an edging rubber. And so using the Skwamas, I was like, these are pretty nice. I don't think I would like these on slab.
No.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see how the Mandalas will perform on a slab because I don't think I tried them.
No, that was kind of the one thing we didn't do with the Mandalas. We didn't get them on the slab. I'd imagine that they'd perform pretty good just because of like no edge being more a sensitive smearing type of shoe, whereas I think everything else is more kind of that. Like they're all going to be smearing to a point because it is like excess grip rubber.
Exactly, yeah.
Excess grip to rubber. But like the mandalas just have like that extra sensitivity to where I think if you're like doing those like bouncy kind of slab problems,
I think it'll be great.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely excited to try that because I do love me some slab, although it's a little a little scary outdoors doing the slabs. But I am excited to see how they do. I think it'll be helpful getting more time in them and kind of getting used to the feel of the no edge and like kind of climbing with the focus being on like my toe and not thinking about how there is usually that kind of pointed edge to it. So I'm really excited to get more time in them because it's an interesting look and the idea behind it is really cool for sure.
Yeah. And like, as we know with all of these shoes, they're going to perform good on a wide variety of problems because these were all shoes that were featured in the Olympics.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're going to kind of handle everything. I mean, in this year's Olympics, we saw slab type problems and we saw overhanging and kind of cave toward their style problems. And you saw a lot of La Sportiva's athletes kind of use all of these shoes.
Exactly. I remember Brooke climbing that slab with the Squamas and being like, okay, that's pretty cool. I think that was, it's just really cool to see that those high performance shoes here on someone who's not as high performance.
Who's getting a taste of it.
Exactly, yeah, and kind of seeing how they work for everyone else and being like, yeah, these are awesome, but are you going to be able to perform like Brooke Rabatou? Yes, is the answer.
Yeah.
I think that's how I was yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even compared to like what you were using before from La Sportiva, which was like the Katana Women's, like these are definitely more aggressive type shoes.
For sure. And I feel like I'm much more confident on smaller footholds with all three of these compared to the Katana Women's laces.
Way more confident on it. You just, I think maybe it was more surprisingly like because you downsized them, you had to use the bag to get in and get out.
I did. I felt really cool in the gym.
Yeah, having a little like frill.
But
it was definitely more interesting to see how, I guess, more precise you were with your toes, even though that your feet were probably numb. And everything was crammed. You probably didn't have much sensitivity, but just seeing how more precise you were, it's, I mean, you've always had pretty good footwork, but I almost like, it's weird to say being like, yeah, now that you got these high performing climbing shoes, you're almost climbing a little bit better. But I mean, that kind of goes to show you where it's like, sometimes you just need the right tool. Like definitely like we said, like all these shoes are going to perform really well.
Yes,
and like they were all in the Olympics, but there's definitely some things like you wouldn't want to use the solution comp for slab because they're so downturned.
Yeah.
But like you're going to start finding that, okay, rather than just doing like with the one shoe to rule it all, you're going to start getting into these things where it's like certain things are going to require certain shoes.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, before this point, I would use my Katana laces for a decent number of things, but I mainly stuck with my boosters. They were kind of my all-around shoe, and they were my first shoe that I got, so it was kind of like the comfort zone. But now having these and just having done a little bit of climbing with them, I'm like, oh, okay, I can understand people, even seeing like Adam Andra on the stage, having like 3 pairs of shoes with him. I'm like, okay, I get it. I can see how that would be helpful having the right tool for the problem you're working on.
Yeah, for sure. So overall, what is your most favorite shoe after one day of climbing? And just be aware that it's one day.
Exactly.
And these will all kind of break in differently.
For sure.
But after one day, what's been kind of your favorite and why is it your favorite?
I think favorite is hard. I feel like because they performed well on different things. I think at this point in time, the thing that's pushing this one forward is the comfort level. So I would say the Squamas. At the end, I think I spent about half the session in the Squamas just because I felt more comfortable in them. And because of that, I wasn't as like focused on the fact that my toes felt like they were going to fall off.
Yeah.
On overhang, I would say definitely the solution comps would take the win. And then when it comes to mandalas, I think I just need to just kind of be more aware of the fact that it's a different shoe. And I think that also bouncing between these 3 made it a little bit more tricky just because I was using shoes with that harder edge and then switching to this. And it's hard to kind of get that mindset shift of using a different kind of shoe more than just like downturned level, like actual edging.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, that is the thing, because it is no edge, and there's like what 3 or 4 La Sportiva shoes that are using no edge, and those shoes are going to perform relatively the same, but like coming from everything else, like every previous climbing shoe that you've climbed in has a traditional pointed edge. And it's kind of going to this no edge where it's like, whoa, it's kind of different. But I think you're right. I think the more, maybe you're going to find that those are going to be a better outdoor climbing shoe, maybe for bouldering outdoors.
I was going to say, I'm excited to see how they perform lead climbing.
Yeah.
Because I could see them performing quite well in that. And just the fact that Mori during the Olympics chose them for bouldering and also for lead climbing. But obviously everyone knows her lead performance, spectacular. Yeah. And so if there's a reason why she's choosing this and why she had changed from, I believe, the Futura she was using before, and how she did move to the Mandala, I'm interested to see how they perform doing sport climbing, just any kind of rope climbing in general.
For sure. They could be like a kind of like ultimate high performance shoe that can kind of handle both things really well. Whereas like it definitely in between, like the Solution Comp and the Skwama might excel at one thing better than the other. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see kind of over time how they kind of perform, what you like to use them for. And just kind of how they mold to your feet too, because you did downsize them. Yes,
I did downsize them, and it's definitely what I remember. When we first got to the gym, I was like, you know what? It felt a little embarrassing to use the like plastic bag to get them on. So I was like, I'm gonna put the Squamas on without any bags, and almost immediately regretted my choice.
Yeah, you kind of did the classic thing of like I'm just gonna put these on without the bag and leave them on, and you're like walking from the problem back to the mat. It was just like
I was like kind of walking on my knees on the mats because I just it was too painful.
And it was just like at the end being like, you do realize that you just need to pop them off, and just like every time you like, especially when it's your first day with all of these are not broken in. They're going to be painful.
I mean, I think the Squamas are probably the only ones that I could have gotten on without the bags anyways. I don't think I could have done either of these.
I mean, even from my experience with my Solution Comps, they were it was agony. It was like I had to be out of them immediately. Like, they're great for performance. You can climb caves really well. They're a great overall shoe, but my goodness, they hurt.
Beauty is pain.
Beauty is pain.
Overall, though, I'm really excited to see how these perform, and I'm really happy with how they have done just in this first climbing session. I think that there's a lot of things about each of them that I'm really excited for, and really excited to see how they're performing outdoors and in a variety of different problems and situations. They're really cool shoes. I mean, I fangirled when I first got them. If anyone follows me on Instagram, I was like posting on my story a bunch of photos because I was like, wow, pretty babies.